The world's climate system is quite complex. A small change in one region can have serious consequences thousands of miles away. For example, if the temperature drops from 38 degrees to freezing weather overnight in places like Colorado, this is not just a local weather event. It is a reflection of the global effects of melting polar ice, changing ocean currents, and atmospheric systems. These sudden temperature fluctuations, as well as prolonged droughts and increasing rainfalls, are inevitable aspects of climate change. Such extreme weather events affect not only the atmosphere, but also our lives directly. For example, agricultural production decreases, water resources are rapidly depleting, and many animal species are forced to leave their homes. The biggest fear is that these events will become more frequent, more severe, and more unpredictable in the future. The example in Colorado is perhaps just a small and innocent preview of what is to come. This change threatens not only us, but all life on the planet. History clearly shows that this is not the first time such crises have occurred. The strong El Niño between 1997 and 1998 caused more than $5 trillion in economic losses worldwide. While Indonesia experienced its driest days during that period, disaster scenarios followed one after another around the world. 2016 went down in history as the hottest year on record. The massive fire that started in the Fort McMurray region of Canada destroyed more than 600,000 hectares of forest. The flames that affected the entire city could only be extinguished after a year-long struggle. Approximately 90,000 people were evacuated from their homes, and 2 people unfortunately lost their lives. That same year, temperatures in Arizona claimed the lives of 150 people, while the picture in India was even darker. Thermometers in the country exceeded 50 degrees, causing a huge water crisis affecting 330 million people. This situation, which was further aggravated by the effects of El Niño, cost the lives of thousands of Indian citizens. The human body has not developed a natural resistance to such extreme temperatures. The air temperature approaching 30 degrees disrupts the body's potassium and sodium balance, slows down metabolism, and can seriously damage the kidneys. Above 40 degrees, there is a risk of heat stroke, loss of consciousness, and even death. It is frightening to even think about the effects of even higher temperatures. Our planet is now facing these deadly temperatures one-on-one. The 57 degrees recorded in Death Valley, USA in 1913 is still a record, but the 54 degrees measured in Kuwait in 2016 showed that new records are not far away. This situation is not only numerical records, but may also be a forewarning of upcoming major disasters. Starting from the fall of 2023, the effects of El Niño began to be felt more clearly. During this period, hurricanes, severe storms, tornadoes, and excessive rainfall became more frequent around the world. The bitter cold in winter, the scorching heat in summer, and increasing forest fires have upset the balance of life. The planet is now turning into a hotter place that is difficult to return. This warming threatens not only the climate, but all living systems. According to scientists, a giant El Niño is currently forming under the oceans. This new massive event could be powerful enough to shake the entire planet. It is no longer possible to deny or ignore this fact. What is happening seems to indicate that a countdown has begun towards the end of our world. According to research, if we cannot stop the increase in global temperatures in the next decade, hurricanes, fires, droughts, and storms will double. Moreover, these disasters will increase not only in number, but also in intensity. If the world exceeds the critical limit of 1.5 degrees, humanity will be dragged into an irreversible climate collapse. According to scientists, the chance we have of not exceeding this limit is only 0.1%. This rate clearly shows that there is almost no hope left. Moreover, all the major disasters we have experienced so far have occurred with a rise of only 1.28 degrees. A greater increase could trigger crises that humanity and all living things cannot handle, although some scenarios say that people can resist these conditions for years. According to many experts, the mass extinction of all life is an inevitable possibility. One of the most striking signs of the climate crisis is the rapidly melting glaciers, and unfortunately, this melting has now reached historical records. On a summer day in 2019, Greenland lost 11 billion tons of ice in just one day. This amount is enough water to fill approximately 4,400,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Greenland's ice sheet is approximately 3 kilometers thick, and if it melts completely, a huge mass of water will form. This means that global sea levels will rise by tens of meters. Scientists say it is only a matter of time before coastal cities like Miami are completely submerged. However, the threat is not only on the coasts. Approximately 15 million people living in mountain foothills in countries such as India, Pakistan, Nepal, and China are also at great risk from sudden floods. The melting glaciers on the peaks are forming giant lakes, and if these lakes suddenly burst, floods flowing at 120 kilometers per hour could destroy everything in its path. And the real horror is yet to come. If all the glaciers on the planet melted, sea levels would rise by about 65 meters. This would mean that some countries would be completely submerged, and many coastal cities would be wiped off the map. Mega cities such as New York, New Orleans, San Francisco, and Los Angeles would be largely destroyed. Even large settlements in South America would not be spared from this rise. In Asia, coastal areas where hundreds of millions of people live would be submerged. New seas could even form in the interior of the continent. The continent that would be relatively least affected would be Africa, which stands out with its high altitude. However, temperature increases would create uninhabitable conditions there as well. Even a few meters of sea level rise could lead to salinization of drinking water resources, loss of agricultural lands, and forced migration of millions of people. Over time, these migrations could lead to serious humanitarian crises and international tensions. But perhaps the most shocking of these dark scenarios is the possibility that the disaster will come not slowly but suddenly. There are 50 giant methane reserves lying dormant at the bottom of the oceans, waiting like a ticking time bomb. If one of these is triggered, it will not look like a nuclear explosion, but its impact could be at a level that could destroy all of humanity within weeks. Deep in the earth, under the permafrost and ocean floors, there are huge methane deposits. This gas creates a greenhouse effect 34 times stronger than carbon dioxide and traps heat in the atmosphere, warming the planet even faster. As the seas warm and the ice melts, this methane gas can be released. According to some scientists, this may be the cause of the mass extinction that occurred 250 million years ago. At that time, the world temperature increased by 10 degrees and 90% of living species were wiped out. Today, climate scientists say that they have already received the first signals of such a disaster. In the winter of 2020 and 2021, the Yamal Peninsula in northern Asia was shaken by an unusual temperature increase that triggered the release of methane from the permafrost. In 2023, a giant piece of ice broke away from the ice shelf in Antarctica. This mass was the size of a city. Fortunately, there was no methane underneath. But what if we are not so lucky next time? If these methane hydrates are released from both underground and the seabed at the same time, an irreversible climate chain can be set in motion. This points to a future in which humanity's hopes are completely gone. The climate system not only warms up, sometimes it can also shake the balance in other ways. La Niña, the polar opposite of El Niño, continues to change the planet's balance. This climate event can change wind systems and push warm water deep into the ocean while cooling surface waters excessively. La Niña, which lasted 3 years, left its mark on many parts of the world. Australia was hit the hardest. During the period known as the Black Summer, vast forests were completely reduced to ashes. The great flood disaster that followed these giant fires hit the country for the second time. In the spring of 2022, some regions received the rainfall they should have received in a year in just 1 week. In the autumn of the same year, historical records were broken with snow cover reaching 2.5 meters in some places. Europe also had to face the wrath of nature. The driest period in the last 5 centuries has occurred. Riverbeds have dried up, lakes have shrunk, and fish have died en masse in waterless areas. The pungent smell of rotting fish has made life in coastal cities unbearable. To combat water shortages, countries have banned car washing and irrigation. But even this has not been enough to stop forest fires. By the end of July, hundreds of hectares of land were engulfed in flames. These extreme heat waves have killed more than 24,000 people in Europe alone. La Niña's impact was not limited to the southern hemisphere. The US was hit by its deadliest hurricane since 1935. Florida experienced major flooding, while Canada battled the most powerful hurricane in history, Fiona. Pakistan experienced devastating floods during the monsoon season, killing more than 1,700 people. And on February 3, 2023, Mount Washington's summit froze in the harshest cold snap in history. Winds blowing at 205 kilometers per hour dropped temperatures to minus 78 degrees. The same system has dropped temperatures in some cities by 33 degrees in one day. These sudden changes have frozen underground water sources and triggered small-scale earthquakes. But this may be just the beginning. Consecutive cold winters have caused many people in North America to freeze to death. Even advanced technology and infrastructure are not always sufficient to withstand such intense natural events. Each new winter storm leaves hundreds of thousands without electricity and disrupts their lives. If this picture still doesn't surprise you, remember that the rapid melting of the glaciers in Greenland could cause all these disasters to become commonplace. The mixing of fresh water into the ocean could weaken the Gulf Stream, one of the most powerful ocean currents on Earth. If this current stops, Europe and North America could face sudden and devastating cold snaps. A similar situation occurred in the 1300s. The Gulf Stream slowed down, and Europe was dragged into the Little Ice Age within a decade. Years of heavy rainfall and harsh winters rotted crops and caused hunger and famine. Societies entered a great struggle to survive. Today, serious warnings are being made that we may be on the verge of a new ice age. However, it would be insufficient to attribute this situation only to the seas, because the cycles of the sun also have a great effect on the climate. The sun entered a new cycle in 2020, and it is still not fully predictable what this change will bring. However, the fact that ice ages experienced in the past have repeated themselves at certain intervals is an indicator of the cyclical structure of nature. Just as day and night alternate, ice ages have also occurred repeatedly throughout human history. The previous ice age ended approximately 10,000 years ago, and the planet may now be on the verge of a new era. This transition would probably have happened faster if there were no technological interventions. But even developing technology cannot completely control the great rhythm of nature. The Ordovician period, considered one of the greatest mass extinctions in history, once again revealed the power and destructiveness of the climate. The sudden cooling experienced worldwide caused the extinction of approximately 85% of living species. This event clearly reveals how deep the consequences of climate change can be. The world has a complex ecosystem network built on a delicate balance. Every living thing, every element is an inseparable connection of this system. When any one of them is damaged, the entire structure shakes. The extreme heat waves, harsh winters, torrential downpours that turn into floods and long droughts that we have been faced with in recent years are the harbingers of this balance being disrupted. For centuries, nature has managed these changes with its own cycles. However, now, greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere by human activities have upset this natural order. These gases accumulated in the atmosphere increased the temperature of the planet. Glaciers melted, sea levels rose, and the climate crisis has become an inseparable part of daily life. The warming of the oceans is an invisible but vital aspect of this process, because warming seas can affect the order of the entire planet by changing air currents and climate cycles. Weather events such as El Niño and La Niña are the most obvious examples of this imbalance. These systems are powerful enough to affect everything from the continent's precipitation regime to seasonal temperatures. We must now take action without wasting time to combat this global crisis. Limiting climate change, preserving the balance of nature, and leaving a livable world for the future is a common responsibility of all of us. If this video affected you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts with us in the comments. This planet belongs to all of us. See you in the next video. Goodbye.